everybody, and welcome to the Bob Stoops app. I'm Brad McMullen, along with Hall of Fame football coach Bob Stoops. Glad to have you back here in the studio, Coach.
Thank you, Brad. I decided to dress up today after all these, looking at all these videos. You always look so good.
Oh.
And I'm in there in my shorts and sneakers, so I'm coming after you today.
Well, you look like $1 million.
Actually, I have to go to a memorial, so don't get used to this.
Don't get used to this look. Well, you look sharp, Coach. All right, we have a lot to talk about today, from the new college football playoff top 25 to big news coming out of Alabama with Auburn firing their head coach. Are you surprised by the decision or just surprised by the timing?
Not in today's world, not really. People have so little patience anymore. Not just people, but certain programs. And, there was some turmoil there at the end of last year, so that probably didn't help things, and then they come into this year and they're really not playing very well and having a poor record. And, in today's world, people want to get on with the new hire. And I'll say this as a head coach, if you know you don't want me there anymore, I just soon be let go as well, rather than let's fake it through 6 more games and act like we're going to keep them when we're not. Then if you've already made the decision, then it's fair to him to know and move on with his life as well.
Yeah, Coach Harsin, a popular football coach at Boise State, was a hot commodity when Auburn hired him. What do you think went wrong with him at Auburn?
I really don't know. Again, not being there. I believe in this, and I believe Brian is a great coach. I really do. He's got a really strong background, and that means a lot. You don't just forget to coach. I think sometimes you fit places and you don't fit places. And to me, that's the biggest thing. Without naming any different schools, I passed up opportunities as an assistant coach because I didn't feel they fit me. I'd rather wait for something that was going to fit me, in a better way. And so I think the fit in certain guys fit certain places, and for whatever reason it's hard to say why, and sometimes they don't, and when they don't, it's hard to make it work.
When you look at the jobs that are open right now from Nebraska, Wisconsin, and now Auburn, what do you think is the best job, and does it really completely depend on what you said, the type of person and personality?
Yeah, I totally believe in that. Certain people are going to fit at Nebraska, other guys are going to fit at Auburn, and on and on. And I think that's the job of the person taking the job, knowing it fits me the right way and I can make this work, and the people doing the hiring, that getting to know that person or certain persons and pick the right guy that you feel is going to represent the program and build the program the way you feel it can be built.
Yeah, some of the negative, if you read right now, as they say, there's a lot of pressure at Auburn. The alums want to win right now. But as a coach, isn't that attractive to you to want to go to a program where they expect to win, they want to win, and they're going to support you?
That's the case at Auburn and 150 other schools. So it isn't.
Well said.
It isn't just Auburn. You think when we walked in here at Oklahoma that they didn't want to win right away and they weren't expecting to be back in championship form. Everybody's expecting that, and that's just the way it is. And as a coach, you want that. I didn't want to walk into a program that wasn't expecting to win.
All right, talk about the candidates that are being floated out for opening of jobs. Deion Sanders had never been a head football coach before. He went to Jackson State. It was a gamble, Jackson State, Walter Payton's former school, to hire Deion Sanders, the superstar at Florida State, and then, of course, for the 49ers, Atlanta Falcons, and Dallas Cowboys. It worked out great for Jackson State. They were on game day last week. They're undefeated. They were SWAC champions last year. They're probably going to be SWAC champions this year. When do you think an athletic director is going to say, maybe it's time for prime time to be our head coach?
I would think soon. You have to give it to Deion Sanders and his staff. They have been excellent, and he has reached those players in a really positive way to get them to play the way they are. He's recruited well. Imagine his, opportunity to recruit at a bigger school. Mm-hmm. Let's face it, he's one of the biggest names, not college football to pro football. And from everything I've watched, I don't really know Deion at all personally, but watching it from afar, he's done an incredible job. Reaching coaches, reaching his players, getting them to play at a high level and a consistent level. So you got to give it to him. And I would assume all these schools, or certain ones, again, where it fits well, are going to be reaching out to them to explore that option.
Yeah, if you're a high school kid and you get a phone call and Deion Sanders wants to come hang
right.
out with you for a little while, you're going to take that call, right?
As well as the parents. So definitely.
Parents will be like, here's a football coach. Why don't you sign right here? All right, other big stories that are out there when it comes to college football. The CFP ranking came out, and surprise, surprise, Tennessee, not Georgia, the number one team in the country.
I would have picked Tennessee myself. Just the way they've won, the manner in which they've won. I think they've beaten 4 ranked teams. I think that's right. So absolutely, I would have put Tennessee number 1, and Georgia's right there, and that's going to be a big matchup. I'm sure we'll talk about that. And then let's see, 3.
So Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Clemson 4, Michigan 5, then Alabama, followed by undefeated TCU, Oregon, undefeated USC, and LSU.
Yeah, I like Ohio State as well at 2. They're playing great football. Georgia as well. I would have put, just overall to this point, put Michigan ahead of Clemson, I think. Just the manner in which they've won and all, it's probably pretty close to how difficult each schedule's been. But I think Clemson's gotten some good breaks and been a little bit on the lucky side overall. And anyhow, that's just my feeling at this point. But there's a lot of football left.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the committee nailed the top spot because Tennessee earned it.
Absolutely.
They have the best win on the season, beating Alabama, and last week what they did to Kentucky. And I really thought, Kentucky was going to play better in that game. Boy, oh boy, Tennessee showed me that they have really, really come to play this year. And think about it, 2 years ago, Tennessee had 35 players hit the portal. You had Coach Heupel come on, didn't get a top 25 recruiting class. He started building the process, building the program. They said people aren't going to give him the patience. Now look at where he is.
Absolutely. They've done an incredible job. And I think it also shows you the portal done correctly. You can change your team, drastically in a year by getting the right transfers, not just recruiting and not just, your recruiting classes, but getting the proper and right transfers that fit your program. You can make a big difference in your program right away.
And I think Ohio State earns the number 2 spot, but you got to give Georgia some credit. Their big win on the year was a 49-point domination of Oregon, who hasn't lost since.
Yeah, again, I can't wait to see that game this weekend. So you're right. But again, I don't think any of those coaches or anybody's upset right now because it doesn't matter. Right. They're all going to play each other, for instance, Tennessee, Georgia this week. And we'll see, but I don't know. I to this point, I like where it's at. I would agree with it. I would have put Michigan just ahead of Clemson, but again, that's not going to matter in the end either.
All right. Now, there are people that are unhappy, fans of TCU and also USC, because they believe, hey, our team should be ranked higher. USC with 1 loss, TCU undefeated. Your thoughts on TCU being able to win out and potentially get in the Final Four?
They've got a great chance. Sonny Dykes and their team are doing a great job. I would have had them right there with Clemson, splitting hairs who's 5. In my opinion, being undefeated matters. So anyway, they'll have a chance. They're, the bottom line, there's a lot of football, and they'll have a great opportunity to keep climbing.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's the first week of November. A lot of football still to be played. If you're in the top 10, you're a legitimate player to get in that Final Four. All right, we've teased it. Let's talk about the big games this week. None bigger than number 3 Georgia at home against number 1 Tennessee. The Georgia Bulldogs are favored by 8 points in this game.
If I was a bettor, I'd bet Tennessee. If Georgia wins, it's going to be tight, I believe, and in my heart, I believe Tennessee's got a great opportunity to win outright just from everything that I've watched. The one thing that gives me hesitation is Georgia's ability to throw the football, and Tennessee has been weak in the secondary. So for that reason, I'm not going to pick Tennessee to win outright, but I think it'll be closer than 8.
Yeah, and if you look at the season, just from game 1 to last week, you would make this argument, the reason why Tennessee is number 1 is they've gotten better each and every week. When Georgia, you could say their best game of the year so far was game number 1 when they played Oregon.
Yeah, and there's some truth to that, and they've lost maybe their best defensive player this past week. But I just watch, all that experience with Stetson Bennett and all the different receivers. They've got a great tight end. And the fact that Tennessee has struggled with some pass defense is what gives me hesitation. And Kirby Smart's a great coach as well. And you would think they'll do their best to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and some silver lining in this. If Tennessee were to lose a close game to Georgia, and that is their only loss for the season, they're probably going to make the Final Four because of that big win against Alabama and the impressive win against Kentucky.
I would agree with that. So just a lot will depend on how this game goes and how they play.
Going to be a lot of fun. So you're going with Tennessee in the points, but you think Georgia's going to win the game?
I do. Just, again, the pass defense for Tennessee and Stetson Bennett's success in the last 2 years is the reason I'm doing that.
Going to be a lot of fun watching that game. All right, Oklahoma State at Kansas. 2 weeks ago, Oklahoma State beat Texas, and most people thought this was the best team in the Big 12 and one of the top 10 teams in the country. Last week against Kansas State, Oklahoma State did not do well. They absolutely got blasted in that game. And we talked about this a little bit, thinking, hey, Oklahoma State's going to do well. Boy, Kansas State at home is pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and you'd think I would know that after all these years watching Kansas State and from being there for 7 years. And we both picked Oklahoma State and maybe gave them a little too much credit. In the end, we should have known, in looking at Kansas State at home against a top 10 team, they've done it through the years over and over and over. So, I should have, of anyone, should have anticipated that. And they sure played great with their backup quarterback, who just had a career day. So, for that reason, again, I think Kansas State's on a roll.
They are a great football team. All right, so now they have to play another team in Kansas. This time the Jayhawks, who started out the season fantastic, undefeated, had College game day, then lost a heartbreaker in overtime to TCU. Then Kansas lost to Oklahoma. Now they're looking to try to rebound here against Oklahoma State. And right now, the Jayhawks at home are favored by 1 point over Oklahoma State.
Well, and I fear that Spencer Sanders won't play, and that's a big deal. And if he doesn't play, I would definitely take Kansas. Again, they took TCU to overtime, and TCU's undefeated right now. They've played really good football all year. None of it's been fluky. They've been really strong overall. And I believe their quarterback they anticipate him being back for Kansas. So
that'd be a big deal.
So anyway, so I with them at home, I like that pick.
All right, back to the SEC, where Alabama will be on the road at LSU, and talk about a team that has really turned it around. Brian Kelly's LSU Tigers have looked very impressive the last few weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, just because early on they were up and down.
Yep.
And it just seems like they're catching their rhythm with LSU. But, Alabama, it's hard to pick against them. I don't care where they're playing. And once they've lost once, they don't generally lose again. So unless it's maybe a championship game. So for that reason, I'm just going to go with that track record of success. And I think they're both great. Not everyone knows Nick Saban's a great coach. I think Brian Kelly is as well. So, but I still am going to go with Alabama.
Yeah, I think Brian Kelly's a great coach as well. I think it's going to be close early, but I like Alabama pulling away. Alabama favored by 14, and I believe they're going to do that on the road. All right, another interesting game. The Texas Longhorns. That's right, the number 24 ranked Texas Longhorns are going to be on the road at number 13 Kansas State. Kansas State, believe it or not, still not getting respect. They are the home underdog by 2.5 points against the Texas Longhorns.
You heard what I said earlier in this interview, right? I should have anticipated, that beehive that Oklahoma State would have been, walking into, and it won't be any different this week. Kansas State, the fans are never satisfied. The players are never satisfied. There's always a chip on their shoulder. And that won't go away this week. So I'm going to go all over Kansas State.
Yeah, I love Kansas State at home on this one. I think it's going to be great. And of course, it's not a team sneaking up on Kansas State. It says Texas across their shirt. So they'll be ready for this one. And I think Kansas State's a better football team. Remember, Oklahoma State beat that Texas team 2 weeks ago and got obliterated by Kansas State last week. I really like Kansas State at home. Other big game, Clemson at Notre Dame. Notre Dame Started out the season really off the roster, just not doing very well. A lot of questions and concerns over Marcus Freeman as the coach. But they put some wins together here the last few weeks and are looking much better. Clemson favored by 3.5 on the road.
Yeah, that's basically a pick 'em then.
Yeah.
And anyway, I like what Notre Dame's done recently. They really seem to be getting over the hump. I feel Clemson has been a little bit lucky overall, just meaning I thought Syracuse had that game a week ago. And
that one play, that one penalty out of bounds.
Roughing the quarterback out of bounds, gave them all the momentum. They were up 2 scores. And it's amazing as a coach. I sat there and watched it, and I said, "Oh man, that's the straw that broke their back," you know. And when it happened, I said it, and sure enough, that's how it happened. But I think on the road at Notre Dame, I'm gonna take Notre Dame.
Go with the Irish as the home underdog. Should be exciting. I like that pick. I don't know if Notre Dame will win, but I think they're going to keep it within those points. That's good stuff right there. All right, the game that we're really interested in, Baylor Bears, the defending Big 12 champion, traveling to Oklahoma for a 2 o'clock kickoff on ESPN+. Oklahoma looking to make it 3 straight wins. This has been a team with Baylor. You want to talk about inconsistent play. Baylor one week looks like a great team, a top 10 team, and then another week you're like, what happened there? Just a lot of inconsistency in the Bears. Why do I think we're going to see the best Baylor team on Saturday?
Well, because they're coming to Oklahoma.
They're playing Oklahoma.
I've said it for 18 years. Our guys, I said, whatever you see on tape, when someone may not look so good, I said, we get everybody's best shot. So better always take whatever you're watching with a grain of salt, because everyone loves to come play us. And that's great. You love that. So they really run the football well. And I think that's, fortunately, though, I think overall we've been pretty good against the run. Some games, I take that back in a couple, but overall, I think that's going to be a big deal for us to be able to control their run game. And of course, I'm going to pick the Sooners. I feel we've gotten in a good rhythm the last couple weeks, and I think that builds confidence and belief and excitement for the team. So I believe we'll keep building on that.
Yeah, I think the defense is getting better. Let me say this, against Kansas, they put a lot of second and third teamers in at the end of the game to make that a 10-point game when the game was really in hand for most of that second half. And then last week, I know it was Iowa State. I know Iowa State is not setting the world on fire offensively, but when you're averaging giving up 41 or more points in a conference game and you only give up 13, that's saying something. They are making progress, and most importantly, they're starting to get healthy. And the Sooners showed in their first 3 games of the year, when they're healthy, they're a really good football team.
Yeah, getting Billy Bowman back in the secondary is a big deal. We talk on defensive coaches, just be strong up the middle. And that safety position up the middle is critical, as well as getting other people lined up and straightened out with different formations. Billy's got great experience, and getting him back made a difference. And I like the fact that we were making more big plays on defense. Turnovers, interceptions, more sacks, tackles for loss. We were just making more big plays. And again, it doesn't matter to me who you're making them against, as long as you're doing it.
Yeah, to go on the road against Iowa State, where they had the sellout, a large crowd to go in there, and OU to really control things. And if they hadn't gotten that turnover, if you go back to the turnover, and it was a rare one. You're talking about Gray, who rarely turns the ball over. His first turnover this season, they still were able to get things together and win the game, and they won the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, we won the line of scrimmage big time. We were close to opening that game up with a bigger spread, definitely. And it shows some character and toughness that even though when things went wrong and we didn't open up the gap, it's still a tight game. No one panicked, made plays. We made the decisive plays late in the game that made the difference, and that says a lot.
All right, last game, and it's an off-the-radar game, but it's 2 ranked teams actually battling out. Number 21, Wake Forest, at number 22, NC State. Wake Forest is actually favored by 4 points in this game.
Yeah, I can't say that I've seen either of those teams enough to have a strong opinion. I really don't. What'd you say the line is?
So Wake Forest is favored by 4 at NC State.
Yeah, I'd always go with the home team.
Go with the home team.
Yeah, and NC State's been good as well. overall. So I'd stay with them being the home team.
Gonna be a lot of fun. Can't wait to watch football this Saturday. Coach, thank you so much. And don't forget, for videos anytime, 24/7, just tap on our video link. For Hall of Fame football coach Bob Stoops, I'm Brad McMullen.